Well, there are some of those that are legitimate concerns. We need to do process improvement, continue to get better. There are some, like Cornell's study about greenhouse gas emissions, that is just blatantly irresponsible academics. And I'll address those two things separately because I think they are in very different camps. The issue around hydraulic fracturing, I think it's, that word has gotten some broad connotation about natural resource extraction in general, not the fact that it's just one phase of a very sophisticated, high technology way of bringing fuel and energy to Americans. The concerns around hydraulic fracturing have been all over the board, and I'll tell you, there are ones that are legitimate and there are ones that are not well founded. The fact that hydraulic fracturing over a mile below the surface can somehow cause vertical migration of hydraulic fracturing fluids and methane up through a mile of geology has never been shown. It's never been confirmed. And when you look at some of the data that I've seen from the companies, you cannot picture being able to have that process down below migrate up through the earth to a drinking water supply that might even be 1,000 feet deep. So that's important to recognize. What's going down beneath the surface is being managed well. It's being done appropriately. The casing around the wells is a very important part of that. How do we build these wells to keep what's inside and to keep what's in the surrounding geology outside? And that's where we've had some upgrades on regulations, not just in this part of the country but around the state, to make sure that that we're doing that well. Where we have to be ever vigilant is at the surface. How do you avoid this fluid, at the well site, having a spill, having some kind of contamination that would occur because of bad housekeeping? That's where the erosion sedimentation plans, how we build the sites, how protective they are to keep anything that's on the well pad on the well pad. And so that's what I think is important as we look through any violations that have been levied, that they are about surface management, not about what's going on a mile below the surface. And that's important to understand around hydraulic fracturing. The issue of greenhouse gas emissions, that study, we could spend an hour going over the problems with that study, but suffice it to say that there was an ignoring of the cleanliness of this fuel when it's burned. That was totally not part of the calculation. And if we're talking life cycle in every other forum, why wouldn't we be talking life cycle in this forum? Number two, the researchers chose to ignore factors that have been approved by the IPCC, by other entities that are relied upon as the best science, and why one university somehow has better science, and only changed those factors for natural gas, didn't change it for any other fuel. Thirdly, used pipelines that are very long-haul pipelines overseas and in parts of this country that have nothing to do with what we're seeing here in the Marcellus, which is if you're developing this gas locally, you have to take it less distances, and then made a major misappropriation by saying that any gas lost over that long period of time went to the atmosphere, when in fact that gas is lost for other things like fuel to propel that gas along that long distances. I could go on, but that is an example that even the researchers themselves are on tape saying that this data is pretty, on which the study was based, is pretty shaky. And I think it is a disservice to not just the American people, but when stories like that then get picked up overseas and have been based on calculations that would not hold up under any reasonable peer review, and that are very easy to look at and say, you've got to be kidding me. So that's my view on that greenhouse gas story.